Welcome back, guys, to the Chip Shot Football Podcast here on November the 12th. I'm your host, Manny Mardiege, and we are finally through Week 10 in the NFL. A great slate of games culminated last night between the Dolphins and the Los Angeles Rams. We're going to talk about that, my reaction to it, and what was a pretty surprising game, all in all. If you guys watched the preview to it, definitely not the way we thought it was going to go, so we're going to react to that. Then also, there was a couple more good games over the weekend, so we're going to talk about the 49ers game that came down to the wire, the Cardinals continuing to win as well, and of course, the Cowboys and the Eagles game as well, plus some more storylines to get to near the end of the show, so make sure to stick around. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you guys, as always, if you have any questions or comments you'd like to make during the show, please don't hesitate to drop them in the chat. Your input is a big part of what makes this show great, and we thrive on your energy and any sort of different point of views you guys bring to the show. It's always greatly appreciated. So if you want to make it absolutely sure that your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that now just by using the new Super Chat feature. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your Super Chat. In this way, it guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's a fantastic way to support the channel. So we rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we always appreciate you guys for doing so. So go ahead and let us know what you're thinking. Hit the Super Chat button, and let's keep this show as interactive and as conversational as possible. Again, hit the Super Chat feature, click the $ at the bottom of the chat box, and get involved with the show. But now, starting off with the first segment, the most recent of games that concluded just last night, the Dolphins and the Los Angeles Rams. Miami came up big last night is the easiest way to put it, with a 23-15 win over the Rams in Los Angeles. Miami ended a 3-game losing streak heading into this game, and they improved to 3-6, and they're somehow second place in the AFC East. I think for as impressive as that is for the Dolphins, I think there's much more to say about the entire division outside of Buffalo than really giving the credit to Miami. But speaking about the Rams also, they ended their 3-game winning streak and now sit at 4-5 now after this latest defeat. And really the biggest thing that I was impressed with was Miami's defense. The most impressive part to me last night, and not just that, but the offense did enough. And when your defense is playing like that, it turns out results like this. You know, the Dolphins, I'm pretty sure, were pretty favorable underdogs in a way, and I didn't think they were going to have enough, especially with the way the Rams were rolling into this game after a big overtime win last week, and still with everything to play for. It felt like the Rams, to me, were going to be up for this challenge a little bit more, and it just felt like they were a little bit flat as well compared to the Dolphins, who were just playing with their hair on fire. So that was pretty great to see from the Dolphins overall. And speaking about their offense and, just doing enough, Tyreek Hill finally got himself back in the end zone. He scored a touchdown last night, which is his first one since week 1, if you would believe that. It's the longest drought regarding touchdowns in his career, and for the kind of season that he had last year, it seemed like he scored every single week. And of course, there was the injury to Tua, so that affected everything, and he was dealing with a wrist injury heading into this game, so it's not been the smoothest of seasons for the Dolphins so far, but it was great to see Tyreek Hill get in the end zone. And for as little, and speaking about droughts and, touchdown droughts and whatnot, the Rams didn't score a single touchdown last night. Again, a credit to Miami's Dolphins, but they kicked 5 field goals, and it's the first time that's happened since about a year ago on November 5th for the Los Angeles Rams, and it's only the 8th time in the 8 years with Sean McVay that they have failed to score a touchdown as well. And also, just before we get into the game, interestingly enough, Miami had the entire state of Florida on their shoulders last night in terms of results, because Miami's win prevented the state of Florida from going 0-12 this past weekend in the NFL and at the college level, the FBS and the FCS levels. So now they went 1-11 instead of 0-12. It would have been the first time ever that would have happened. And also, in just terms of the NFL, with Miami's win, it prevented Miami, Jacksonville, and Tampa Bay from going 0-3 for the third straight week so far this season, just recently. So it's not been the smoothest of sailings for teams this weekend in Florida, but also for the Dolphins, the Jaguars, and the Buccaneers. Recently, it feels like everything's gone against them, with close losses, game-winning field goals against them, and things like that. The injuries piling up. It's been very rough, but the Dolphins should get all the credit for this game and their defense as well. And just looking at some of the top performers in this game, like I said, regarding the stats and everything like that. Starting off with the Dolphins, Tua had a decent game. He was 20 of 28 with a touchdown and an interception. He also lost the fumble, so he had 2 turnovers last night. Devon Achane, he was their leading rusher, but overall their rushing attack wasn't really so prominent. In total, between 3 guys that had 67 rushing yards, and Devon Achane had the most with 37. Then, receiving-wise, Tyreek Hill scored, but he only had 3 receptions for 16 yards, and Jalen Waddle also 3 receptions, but for 57 yards. So not like the Dolphins were, banging on the door and they just couldn't score. Really, there was a lot of struggles going on with their offense, but they did execute when they needed it to. And on the other hand, Matthew Stafford and the Rams got all the yards, right? Matthew Stafford threw for nearly 300 yards, no touchdowns obviously, but he threw an interception. He was 32 of 46. Kyren Williams had 62 yards, not bad. Puka Nacua had 9 receptions for 98 yards. Kupp added 80 yards and 7 receptions on top of that. But, the turnovers as well for them. Kyren Williams lost a fumble at a crucial point in the game, and Matthew Stafford also fumbled twice, but he recovered both of them. So, very ugly game, and a sloppy one for the Rams as well. And looking at how the game sort of broke down, Miami got out to a 10-0 lead in the first half. That included a sequence regarding those turnovers, like I said, where Miami first threw an interception, then the Rams fumbled the very next play, then Miami fumbled the very next play after that, and the turnovers, again, just piled up, and, neither team wanted the ball, it seemed like, the way that they were just giving it up. Then the Rams managed to get back into it a little bit here, and it was 10-6 going into halftime, so obviously a bad first half, but not the end of the world. Then the Rams actually got the ball first after halftime, but they ended up missing a field goal. And usually how things go, when you miss an opportunity like that, a good team will punish you, and that's exactly what the Dolphins did. They scored a touchdown to extend their lead to 17-6 early in the second half. And after that, it was just back and forth field goals after that, 5 straight to be exact, and the game ended up finishing 23-16. The Rams had an opportunity there late in the game where Sean McVay opted to go for that field goal, right? No, ill feelings about that. They needed 2 scores anyway, so it didn't matter the order. But in a game leading into this game where I thought their defense was really going to step up, and they didn't play awful, the Rams defense in this game, I thought that was a great opportunity for them, to put their foot down, and the game might not have been going great for them overall, but that was a great opportunity to get the ball back for your offense. And it was going to be hard for me to believe that if they did get the ball back, the Rams weren't going to go score. But the way it all turned out, Miami got enough first downs, and they whittled down the clock enough to really not give the Rams an opportunity. So looking at this whole situation now, big picture, Miami now sit behind Indianapolis and Cincinnati, who are both 4-6 for a playoff spot. I think those 3 have solidified themselves as the main 3 contenders for one of the playoff spots from the outside looking in. And it's definitely gonna be tough for the Dolphins. They're gonna need a lot of things to go their way, I'm sure, with the Colts losing a couple, the Bengals losing a couple, and of course the Broncos, who are in 7th place right now at 5-5. But mathematically, they're still in it. But I wanted to give a huge credit to and really highlight the kind of defensive performance that the Dolphins gave here, and really to their defensive coordinator, Anthony Anthony Weaver, because once they lost Vic Fangio, maybe not too many people knew about Anthony Weaver, but last night, the pressure that he had on Matthew Stafford was relentless. They sacked Matthew Stafford 4 times in a game also where I brought up the idea that, Jonah Jackson was coming back, Steve Avila was coming back, and it looked like it was just still too overwhelming for them to handle. And like I said, Matthew Stafford was sacked 4 times, and they gave up 300 total yards, or over 300 total yards, but no touchdowns. So bend but don't break worked out for them here when your offense is able to do enough, of course. And they held the Rams to 3 of 12 on third down conversions as well, so about 25% there, which is great again. And the Rams were 0-3 in the red zone. They went 0 for 3 in the red zone, where the Dolphins, converted on that touchdown that they got to Tyreek Hill. So, and lastly, the 6 penalties that the Rams had to Miami's 1. Very clean, at least organized game for the Dolphins on the defensive side of the ball that really sparked a lot of life into their offense, I thought. So that's great to see. And again, it makes you wonder where this Dolphins team would be, of course, if Tua never got hurt or anything like that. With the way they've been playing, even last week against the Bills, this game, and even the Cardinals game, you could argue that all those games, they could have maybe won them. And then 3 games, flipping those 3 losses into wins, they would be in a great spot right now. But of course, we could play the what-if game till the end of time, right? But this is how it all has, rolled out for the Dolphins in a season where I'm sure they had a lot more hopes for themselves. Of course, you can't predict the injuries, but I like this Dolphins team. I had my doubts about them, but now towards the end of the year, I do believe in them. I do believe in Mike McDaniel, even though he might be getting, a lot of the criticism. I think he's a very good fit for them there with Tua. As long as he can stay healthy and they get healthy, they get more pieces on the offensive line and maybe another receiver as well, because Odell really hasn't done too much. They're going to be good. They're going to be a solid team. If this defense can stay together with Anthony Weaver, another year there under him, I like this Dolphins team going forward. They've just been pretty unlucky throughout 2024, much like a lot of teams. So that'll be that segment, but we're not going to go too far talking about Florida teams. And speaking about being unlucky, that's exactly how I would describe the Buccaneers, because they lost by 3 points to the 49ers this past week in what was a great back-and-forth game. There was a lot of chances missed by the Buccaneers, but also the 49ers, who missed a bunch of field goals. So the 49ers got the win. We're going to discuss it and what this means overall for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going forward. So stay tuned. There's a lot more to come on today's show. We'll be right back.